It's really important to know how to get things done in the company. We're very action oriented, so we're not really a team that creates white papers. Like, we create pilots. We go to market, and that's what we do.
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter Hyde. My guest today is Luke Gebb. Luke is the Executive Vice President of Global Innovation, leading Amex Digital Labs and working across American Express to accelerate the adoption and commercialization of emerging technologies such as Gen AI, agentic commerce, and blockchain to create solutions in areas such as mobile and peer-to-peer payments, open banking, Web3, and beyond. Luke leads a team dedicated to driving innovation and developing the next generation of products and services for American Express's global customer base. Prior to his current role, Luke was the Senior Vice President of Enterprise Digital, leading the company's web, mobile, partner, and digital payments. I look forward to learning more about the innovations that his team has produced and more through this conversation. Luke, welcome to Technovation. It's great to speak with you today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, certainly. Let's talk about Amex Digital Labs. Talk a bit more about the mission of Amex Digital Labs and a bit more about the work that you do, if you would.
Sure. Yeah, we're focused on reinventing the future of the company, working on emerging technology lines, and really focused in zones where business units might not have the time, resources, or expertise to get to, let's say, a new trend line like generative AI, as an example. And so we're constantly churning out roughly 15 to 20 in-market initiatives each year, learning directly from customers. And the highest achievement for our lab is to create something that is great, that scales with customers, and that we graduate out to business units ultimately, and they become a going concern. And examples of that are we created our rewards checking product, which is a unique checking account with a debit product that has rewards tied to it. And we launched that and created a new consumer banking business unit to kind of absorb it and work on other things as well. We also created the company's first servicing chatbot. So this is a ways back, kind of when Labs was being formed. Everyone was pretty much calling us if they had a complex customer service query. And just the idea that a chat interface would meet people where they want to be, and we could build in some automation. And so if someone asked a very simple query, we could just respond in an automated way using traditional AI. And so we created that and graduated that out to our servicing unit. And that's now out there and alive and well. And another kind of example from a different zone is our send and split product. This is a peer-to-peer product. So our customers were telling us, they love their Amex card and they use it in all of these categories, but they also want to be able to pay their friends or pay a worker. And so we did a tie-in with PayPal and Venmo and created functionality within our app to allow you to go ahead and pay a Venmo user out of your Amex account. So just a little set of examples that we're up to.
Very interesting examples all, Luke. I appreciate you sharing those. Talk a bit about the way in which you and your team work with the broader organization to derive these ideas and examples that clearly have a broad impact across, of course, a very diverse organization that is American Express.
We'll take an idea from anywhere. Sometimes it could come from a competition of some sort across, colleagues across the entire world. And we have one of those each year that yields kind of finalists, presenting in New York and that sort of thing. But also our ideas come from startups that just come across our path and come in and meet and have ideas and are building something and, looks like something that we want to expose to our members. We also get a lot of ideas from big tech. So we have very close relationships with all of big tech. We're running things like Apple Pay. And so ideas come to us from big tech players, and we're evaluating those alongside all of these other types of sources. And so within that, we're just trying to look at which are most likely to scale, and we have a process of evaluating them all the way through to pilot to get that done.
The scaling part is certainly a salient point. I can imagine what you're describing yields a number of experiments, but at the scale that Amex has, ideas that actually can truly move the needle need to scale considerably. Can you share a bit more about the way in which you think about that, or the evaluation criteria that you use in order to determine the potential for scalability?
Sure. So we use a kind of process called stage gate. And so in the early stages of an idea, all you need is one page, one piece of paper that describes the idea. And we have kind of like, anyone comes to us with an idea from somewhere in the company, we're like, here's the one page, you fill it out. And so starts out with very little resources used, right? And at that phase, we reject many ideas that might be good, but might not have an ability to scale. One that comes to mind, we had a great idea from within the team to automate VAT refunds for our customers who come back from Europe, and they're standing in the airport, and there are ways to do this that would be better. And we looked at it, good idea, customers would like it, but didn't feel like it would scale to a level that made sense to occupy our roadmap. So that's an example of something that in the early stages we felt didn't scale, even though it was a good idea. And so as you move through the stage gate process, after the one pager, you are dedicating some design resources, some research resources. You're getting to prototype. Ultimately, you're getting to pilot, and then to roll out, and then potentially to graduation and scaling. And so all along that path, if you get considerable negative feedback, or just feedback around inability to scale, that's when we would make the call to shut something down. An example of a product that went fully live was a Singapore-based QR payments product, and the regs changed, and there wasn't quite enough usage for it, so we shut it down.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing those examples, and even live examples that were good ideas but simply didn't scale. Fascinating to learn more about that. Can you describe the constitution of your team and the intellectual or background makeup of the team?
Sure. It's pretty diverse. It's got a fair amount of internal hires and a fair amount of external hires, so a mix there. It's really important to know how to get things done in the company. And we're very action oriented, so we're not really a team that creates white papers. Like, we create pilots. We go to market, and that's what we do. So some of that ability to get things done within American Express, and some of that external kind of new idea, new approaches come together within the team, which is great. Our functions are really product, business development, and something called enablement, which is like quarterbacking our projects through to market. And we partner heavily with our engineering team, which is not part of labs technically, sits in another part of the organization, but absolutely core and critical to going to market, as well as, you could picture it's a big company. We work across legal, compliance, privacy, like the list goes on and on and on in terms of all the partners that we need to work with to ultimately go to market and be successful.
You mentioned the value in having people who understand the complexities of the business that you're in. And Luke, you've been with American Express for a considerable time. And I can only imagine that that's something you feel personally as a result of that you come to this role with a great cognizance of the scale and complexity of a business like yours. I'm interested. How did this opportunity present itself? I assume it predates your involvement with it. Although, please correct me if that is incorrect. And talk a bit about how the opportunity presented itself. What attracted you to it? How your background matched well with the intent of the labs and so on.
Sure. So it does not predate me, actually. So I, in multiple stints at Amex and a Web 1.0 startup, really have always focused on innovation. And the key project that kind of defined a fair amount of my career within the company was creating MX Offers, which is connecting merchants and card members based on what merchants want to acquire, what new card members, and giving offers to those card members and rolling that out globally. And so I learned to love innovation. Have always been focused on innovation, but the job prior to this, which you pointed out, I was in charge of enterprise digital. So I had all of our digital channels and a much bigger remit, some of which was digital payments and some of the things that are currently in labs. And there was a moment in time where there was an intersection of me realizing that I love to create more than I love to manage large teams and portfolios, and the company realizing that while we went through a period of consolidation and we had to get more organized, and I helped with that we needed to push further on that long tail of innovation. So that moment happened, and worked with my boss and the CEO at the time to create labs.
Fascinating. Very, very interesting. I appreciate that Genesis story. Well, as somebody who's been involved with payments for some time, you've alluded to some of the pursuits relative to it, but I'd love to get some of your thoughts about the evolution of the topic now across multiple areas that you've had responsibility for, but of course, very importantly, where you see the future going.
Yeah, sure. So some of the meat and potatoes are Apple Pay and GPay, and being present for the industry, collaborating with those players to create those products, which took a long time to scale, but are really, success stories in terms of bringing payments to phones. And so we've spent a lot of our history working on those things, the nuts and bolts behind them, how they work with things like tokenization. So it's not your actual card number that is being shared with a merchant when you go and pay with Apple Pay. It's a tokenized version of that card number. So those nuts and bolts, form the basis for a lot of what we've done. And so while we've been creating a lot of enhancements to those products, as well as doing things like in Chrome, if you ever, many people use Chrome for online shopping. If so, you've probably been offered by Chrome to save your card number or get a virtual card number. And we worked with Google on that. And it's been very broadly adopted in terms of people deciding like, okay, you know what, I'm going to have a virtual card number, a tokenized card number sit in my browser for when I want to check out easily. And then you think of all of those things, those basics or building blocks, and then the dawn of agentic payments happening right now, which is where a lot of the action is. You have LLMs on the scene, large language models, where people are starting to go in and say, what might be the best tennis racket for me, or, whatever it is. People are starting to have these discovery moments inside of large language models. And so we're working with many in the industry to figure out that kind of next generation of payments and how they will work when you have this, so everything up to date in e-commerce, you have a human clicking a buy button. But now you have a human giving instructions to an agent that essentially clicks the buy button, for lack of a better way of describing it. And so you have this new player in the middle, and the industry is working, and we're working with players like Google and Cloudflare, where we've had public announcements about how those transactions might work. And so, for example, if you tell your agent that you would like to have a 500-watt vacuum cleaner, find me any vacuum cleaner that is of that power if the price goes below X. And you go to sleep and you wake up the next morning and there's 500 vacuum cleaners like on your doorstep. There's that moment where you may have given a clear direction to your agent and your agent may not have interpreted it correctly. Or the agent may have put the order in correctly and the merchant may have had an operational error. So within each of those steps, we're working to establish things like what was the intent of the card member when they, gave that information to the agent, and then what happened, what did the cart look like when it was checked out from the merchant, and then what arrived. And so all of those things could be moments of failure that we have to figure out exactly how to adjudicate and handle when people, let's say, call us to dispute a transaction. That's just one piece of what's going on in agentic payments, but a lot of different players showing up at the table. And so it's a big change moment really for everyone in the industry.
You alluded in multiple parts of our conversation so far to the broader ecosystem that you're curating to offer greater breadth of inspiration and collaboration. Talk a bit about how you've thought about the development of the ecosystem to breathe life into what you're describing.
At American Express, we do have a venture arm that is out there working really hard to build relationships with startups. And ultimately, we invest in a number of startups each year. So we have a lot of inbound conversations coming from a source like that. We have inbound conversations coming from big tech. We have conversations with all of the LLM players, like the new generative AI players happening. And it's been really quite a year, I would say, in terms of how much is happening, how quickly. If you step back, like in payments, we want to move logically as an industry. And then there are zones like membership, and I can talk further about that, where we want to move differently and go ahead and be kind of a leader in a space where we have a different competitive advantage. So there's a lot of different moves to make along that spectrum.
Well, let's talk about membership, which in the context of Amex includes areas like identity and sustainability, travel, dining. Describe the areas of innovation, the investments that you're making in those places that excite you most.
Sure. So you can think of Amex as a payments company, but wrapped around that is membership. And that, I think, is our unique kind of secret sauce. And you mentioned a lot of those elements. You have travel, dining, lounge access, Amex offers, variety of things that kind of make membership what it is. And so you got to get payments right, make sure they work well, make sure they're great experiences. And then, the secret sauce or, that wrapper is really, really important in membership. So some of what we're thinking about, we have historically been very strong in categories like dining and travel, so take those two. People will use their card to, pay for dining and pay for a hotel. They can also book their restaurant with us through our acquisition of Resi and Talk, as an example. And they can book their hotel through us in order to get, let's say, the benefits of Fine Hotels and Resorts, which is a huge hotel program that we run that serves our Platinum and Centurion base, right? So you've got payments happening, you've got booking happening. We're trying to move further up the value chain to discovery. So we want to be the way that you figured out what great hotel to go to next, or what great restaurant to go to next. And we have a brand that stands for trust and security, and we have your spend history and, understand implicitly a lot of your preferences. And so we're working on products that start to do that. So we have a hotel and dining recommender where you can go in and essentially, view the most recommended, hotels that are in one of our hotel programs, or restaurants that are part of Resi. We recently launched a dining companion, which is more of a generative AI experience. You can go in and ask it, speak to it just like any other LLM, and ask a variety of questions and arrive on a restaurant recommendation that will be from our Resi restaurant network. So these are like 1.0s that are out there, and we expect to build on it and look to really follow customers' leads in terms of like, do they want us to add other categories? How do they want us to enhance those products? And really start to, take a leading role in discovery for our best customers.
Very, very interesting. And speaking of customers, an advantage of what you do, of course, is I assume you're also a consumer of these very same products. So talk a bit about the advantage you have in consuming those and developing perspectives associated with them, and of course, working among a team that I assume does the same.
It helps that our products are super popular. You don't have to go very far to find someone using it, to find someone who loves it. Of course, we are all users of the product. We are more likely to go deep and use every aspect of the features that are in our mobile app, and get to the corners of the mobile app. The new things that we're launching are often purposefully, placed somewhere in the mobile app that is not front and center, so we can learn and we can get, more and more feedback. But I think, it's an advantage to have a product that is super popular, working really well at the moment, walking into a lounge, in the airport, et cetera. Like, you can really experience the brand as an employee. And I think our people love that.
I'm sure that's true. I wonder, as somebody, of course, who has a reason to think about trends on the rise and their application to an organization like yours, what else comes to mind as trends that excite you as you look to the future?
Probably the biggest one we haven't talked about yet is blockchain. And we have a great product out there called Passport. It gives our card members stamps, which are actually NFTs, for every country that they've visited and transacted in. So it's kind of cool. You open it, like you recall when you used to get stamps for every place you visited in your physical passport. It was like, this badge of honor. You'd be like, oh, did you see I went to these places, when you happen to be probably standing online at the airport, with somebody or whatever. But so in this case, we're issuing very cool badges for each destination, and you can tap into those destinations and add memories. And we have a lot of different ideas for how to enhance it, but it becomes a memoriam of all of the places that you have been. You could share, potentially aspects of your trip, et cetera, and stored on blockchain. So, and part of the reason for doing the project is to kind of get into blockchain tech, start to understand and work with things like wallets and, burning and minting and all of the, pieces there. And, we're also super interested in stable coins and what those will bring to different aspects of payments. We have nothing to announce there, but we have a lot of thoughts in the works and things happening. So blockchain is probably, second to AI, the biggest trend line that we're sitting on top of right now.
Fascinating. What an interesting idea as well. I appreciate you providing the overview of the Passport product. I wonder, as somebody who must have a broad intellectual diet to remain abreast of trends and topics and what might be ahead, any recent anything you've recently read, watched, and or listened to that you'd recommend to others?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I not sure that I have a unique take on business reading or news, I do think it's important to constantly be reading and be up to speed. On the personal front, I tend to read historic fiction, and you can see other, moments where technology played such a big role in how things were changing so rapidly. You think of the amount of change that we're living in now, and like a great historical fiction book, All the Light We Cannot See by Dewar, is featuring how radio is impacting the world during World War II, and how critically important it was for people who were in occupied territories to be able to have information that traveled magically over airwaves and into their ears while they were hidden, in some place, let's say inside of occupied France, in the case of this book. And Under a Scarlet Sky is another one where you have the same effect in Italy. You have people kind of smuggling shortwave radios in their parts and learning how to put them back together and take them apart. And of course, the Nazis were hunting them and would confiscate them and or kill people who had them. So I just find it fascinating to spend some time with other earlier tech trends and then think about how that relates back to today and lessons learned.
Great suggestions. I really appreciate you offering those and the rationale as to why you find those interesting. Understanding a little bit where history rhymes as well.
Totally.
And perhaps it provides insights further about where to be worried, more or less worried as a result of how things were interpreted in the past. Luke, Gebb, thank you so much for a fascinating conversation, more about this remarkable purview that you and your team have across a consequential organization like American Express and the many innovations that you're bringing to life. I appreciate you sharing those with me today.
That's great. It was great to be here. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it.